All right, you are listening to Dave the IT Guy. Hey, it's Wednesday, and today we're going to be talking about cloud hosting. What is it? Why do I do it? How do I figure out if I even need it? Well, cloud hosting means a lot of different things. You can talk about, I just want to put my data in the cloud. And what does in the cloud actually mean? Well, to get started, in the cloud really just refers to a larger company such as Amazon or Google, and they have a whole bunch of storage space. So they'll carve out a little bit of space and they'll sell it to you, and you can save and store all of your data, all your other stuff, and we'll talk about what that other stuff is. But you can have all that stuff in stored on their servers. Now, what's the benefit to something like that? Well, it's one place, right? So no matter what device you use, you can connect to your data. So maybe you want to store your resume and you want to access it from your smartphone or a tablet, or even you want to be sneaky from your work computer, right? And you want to send out some resumes while you're at work. Well, you'll be able to connect to your cloud hosted services like a Google Drive, for example. That's a great example of a cloud hosted service. If you have a Google Drive, that's cloud hosting. You're storing all of your stuff on Google's storage so that you don't have to worry about backing it up and you don't have to worry about how you're going to access it later. But cloud hosting for a company is much, much more than that. You can store your data, but that's kind of old school. That's kind of not even cool anymore. Most of your services can be cloud hosted. For example, Office 365. You can have your email stored there. You can also purchase the Office suite, Word, Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel, etc. And for a flat monthly fee of $4, $6, $8, whatever it is at your level of service that you're purchasing, you have access to your email, you have access to using the Office products, all of that stuff. So, and you just keep paying monthly. As long as you're paying, you've got access. Google Mail, same idea. Any other, hosted service, a Yahoo Mail or somebody else, same thing. So that's some basic cloud services. But you can also get into some pretty high-end stuff for corporations. Things like security as a service. Something like that would be if you have a company network and maybe you don't have experienced security staff, but you want to make sure that nobody's hacking your stuff, right? Taking your data and selling it online. So you're going to take and buy security as a service. You're going to sign up with a company, and then you're going to make some edits to your infrastructure, and they'll walk you through how to do it, or they'll even do it for you in some cases. But basically, you would redirect all of your inbound traffic and some of your outbound traffic as well through their services. That way, they can monitor what's coming into you, and if you need it, they can monitor what's going out. So maybe you do some type of specialized research and you don't want your researchers to steal that data and sell it to your competitors. So you want to monitor if they are emailing some of that stuff to themselves, or maybe they're uploading it to their own private cloud. You want to be able to watch that data coming in and out of your network so you have a good handle of what's going on. You can also do things like spam filtering. So instead of getting boatloads of junk email, you can buy spam service. So you would point all of your email initially to come in through their service. They kind of check it and wash it clean of all the spam and viruses and garbage, and then they forward the rest of the good stuff to you. So there's a bunch of things that mean cloud, right? There are all kinds of services these days. My goodness, you can have your phone system through the cloud. So, for instance, you you're a 5 or 6 person small business. You're a real estate office or an insurance agency, and you want the nice, cool features of modern telephone systems, the on hold, the ability to transfer a call from your desktop phone to your cell phone, or things like that. And you don't want to go out and spend $90,000 for a new phone system to hang on a wall in your office and then have to support that down the road. So instead, you contact a company that offers voice over IP as a cloud service, and you would purchase that service on a per line per month basis. So if you had 6 people, you would buy 6 lines and pay a flat fee per month. And that would include your calling features, your ability to transfer calls, voicemail, auto attendant if you want the whole, if you need so and so press 1, so and so press 2, etc. type of capability. So, and things like that, they could cost anywhere from $9, $10 a month for basic phone service up to, $20 and $30 per line per month. If you wanted things like live answering, so you want an operator to answer your calls to appear more professional, a live person, and then you want them to transfer those calls to you in real time. Those type of services are more expensive, but certainly possible. So as we move on and we talk about cloud and what does it mean to use the cloud, so let's go with, okay, I've identified the services that I want to buy from a cloud provider. I want to have my data stored somewhere else. I want my email with Office 365, and I want phone service through somebody. How do I connect? How do I get my computer and my stuff from where it is now to them, and then how do I access it later? Well, mostly those providers can provide that information and make it pretty seamless and pretty easy for you to do that. So we're not going to talk about that a lot in this particular podcast. However, what I would say that is not commonly dealt with, and most companies who are looking to use cloud services don't know to ask, is how is my data going to get from me to you initially? When you talk about seeing stories and articles about companies getting their data compromised, in some of those cases, the compromise happened in the initial transfer of the data from point A to point B. So, for example, if they had a whole bunch of data stored on their servers and they were transferring that data to their cloud hosted provider, if that methodology that was used was not secure and well encrypted, then that data could have been intercepted, in transit. And what that means is that while it was going from you to them, it has to use the internet to get there. And there are methods that you would use to secure that communication from you to your new cloud host. But if you don't utilize those methods and you just start transferring data, you have a very high likely scenario where your data is being transferred in the open, and anybody that knows how to look for it and pay attention for that type of traffic can intercept it and use it for themselves or sell it whatever they want to do with it. So understanding that your data needs to get from point A to point B needs to also come with the understanding is I need to know how it's getting there. If you're using a third-party provider, you need to ask that question. What method are you going to use, and how do we know that that method is secure? Have you encrypted it? Have you tested it? Will you certify that the data is secure in transit? And in many cases, companies will offer you a certificate, a written document that states, yes, we are transferring your data from you to the new place, and it is encrypted. Therefore, if you find later that your data was intercepted or stolen, you have some legal remedies to have them, pay you some money to help you remediate that loss, um, or just, you know, pay you because they made a big mistake. So, certainly a topic that you would want to keep handy. Now, why would a company use cloud based services? Well, of course, the first answer is money. But what considerations about money are necessary? We need to look at how much IT staff that you have. And if you're a small business, chances are you have none. You might have one or two people that's kind of tech savvy, right? And they kind of do it, but they have a real other job that they actually do. And they may not be fully versed in every need or every function. So it requires them to kind of guess or Google or do whatever to make sure that the way that they secure your information is correct. So cloud hosting, in those reasons, is a good alternative to where you can offload some of that work. You might also find that the hardware, so as you need to update or upgrade your hardware for servers and phone systems, like we already talked about, that sort of thing, could be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how large of an organization you are. Comparatively, you might be able to host that same amount of data on a hundreds of dollars per month basis, giving you a return of investment in right around 12 to 24 months instead of 5 to 8 years on a big hardware purchase. So money certainly is part of that, or even a big part of why you need to do it. But you also need to look at, what's my cons? What can hurt me? So what if the cloud hosting provider gets hacked? What are your remedies to getting your data back? What are your remedies for stopping that data from getting out to begin with? Chances are financial remedies are about it. Once they're hacked, they can't really do anything but say, I'm sorry to you, and provide you with a backup copy of your own data and restore it so that you can continue to be in business. But once it's out, it's out. So they can't go out and find it from the hackers and delete it for you. They can only say, oh, we're so sorry, and here's the whatever money that we agreed on in our contract to compensate you if something like this happens. Whereas, at least if you keep your data in-house, you can feel like you have more control. Now again, if you don't have IT staff that knows how to do that, the chances of you keeping your data more secure than a cloud-hosted provider can do is probably next to zero as far as likelihood. So, meaning you're more likely to get hacked than they are. But if you do have competent staff, that might be a consideration. You also need to consider if I'm using the cloud-based service and somehow my internet connection goes offline. So what if there is some sort of storm in your area or some natural disaster that happens in your area and your internet provider goes offline for a day or two or a week? Now, since your data is in the cloud, meaning on the internet, and you can't get there, what are you going to do for that time? Again, even if it's for an hour, a day, or even a week, what are you going to do if you can't access your customer list? If you can't access the phone numbers of a client? If you can't access the whatever, the data that you need, measurements that you took of somebody's home. If you are an interior designer, how are you going to be able to finish your design quote if you don't know what the specs are anymore because you can't get to that documentation. So a lot of scenarios could play out here to where you're going to find yourself in a pickle because your data is in the cloud. Now, sure, there are things that you could do to synchronize that data, meaning you can make sure that your data is both in the cloud and local, like on your computer or on a local server that you do maintain. That way, if the cloud access goes away for some reason, you have the ability to still access your data. So you certainly want to make sure that as you are considering cloud-based services, that you ask the questions of what happens if my internet goes down, meaning your cloud service is just fine, but you can't get there. And what are you going to do in the meantime until that connectivity comes back available to you? So something to consider. Doesn't happen all that often, but as an IT consultant, I can tell you that things like CryptoLocker, which locks all of your data into, we have to pay that ransomware. You need to be able to get to your cloud service and download all of your data in its original form after you've deleted all the encrypted stuff. That sort of thing as a IT consultant happens weekly, not monthly, not even yearly, not every now and again. It happens every week, and in some cases it happens daily in a week. So you certainly want to keep track of that sort of thing. What else? What else is there to consider about cloud hosting? I mean, really, the most common questions are, how much is it going to cost, and why should I do it? And the answers are the cost is going to vary depending on what cloud type of service you're looking at, how long you're looking to do it. And when you start doing comparisons of, well, it would cost me this amount of money per year to have a person on staff that knows how to deal with this stuff. It would cost me this much money per year to have the equipment necessary for me to do it myself. And you take a look at how much support time in between, like server updates and program updates and things like that. How much does all of that cost you in a year? And so that's your financial impact, right? And you compare that to how much the cloud service company would charge you. But then, you have the other costs that are hidden. And those are the things like we talked about where if my connectivity goes down, what do I do? Or what if one of my computers breaks, right? So the internet is still connected and the cloud-based service is still working just fine. But what if I'm a small business and I'm a one-man show and my computer breaks? What am I going to do? Well, cases like that, probably the only option that you have is buy another computer and hurry up about it, right? But maybe the service provider, your cloud provider, can offer you a temporary solution of, okay, you use these type of programs. We can let you remote in to one of our servers and still use your program. Now, if your computer breaks and you only have one and it's the one that broke, then you're still kind of limited in being able to do something. But, if you can't afford to buy a new computer the same day that yours breaks, maybe you can borrow a friend or a family member's computer, right? Maybe your kid has a computer. You take that computer, but you don't have all the same software installed on it, and you don't have access to that software anymore for some reason or another. By having your service provider offer you a way to access your data through their stuff, at least by using your kid's computer, you can remote from that computer into your cloud provider's computer to access your data. Now, if you're not familiar with remote work like that, that might sound like, oh my gosh, Dave, that's crazy. That's too hard. I can't figure that out. But what I can promise you is this. Once you've seen what that process looks like, you're literally talking about 30 seconds to a minute from the time that you're like, oh my gosh, I need that, to turning on the computer, like a friend or a family member's computer, and connecting into that service. You're not talking about hours or days. You're talking about minutes, really. So it's not as difficult as it sounds, but it's certainly a consideration that you might want to have depending on the type of service, the cloud service that you're using. What if you're using phone service in the cloud and your physical phone at your desk is broken? How are you going to receive those calls from the cloud-based service? Well, maybe you can contact that service and say, can you please route my calls to a cell phone? And be able to still receive your calls directly into your cell, but it still rings into your business number and still looks like, a professional organization answering your phones. So again, a lot of considerations. And maybe you're seeing the common theme here that I'm describing is start asking a lot of what if questions. What if my something breaks? What if my service goes offline? What are my options? Or what am I going to do until I can recover that outage in some way, or I can replace whatever broke? So those are the types of questions that you also need to ask, not just how much does it cost, because sometimes that cost may be cheap up front, but if you can't access your data or somebody can't call you or whatever service that you're using is no longer available to you, what does that cost to you? And initially you may not recognize that cost has dollar signs, but the reality is it does. It has dollar signs attached, because if you can't contact your customers, you can't make any more money, and you might even lose money if they can't contact you either and they decide to go elsewhere for service. So we've been talking a little bit about cloud services and what is it and why is it and why would I do it and why wouldn't I do it? And I'm always happy to hear your thoughts. So if you want to shoot me an email over to Dave at dtig.net, that's Dave the IT guy, Dave at thomasindiagolf.net. And let me know what you think. Why would you not use a cloud service, or why did you choose to use a cloud service? I'd be happy to and interested in hearing why you chose what you chose and who you chose. Maybe you found a great cloud service provider that I've never heard of and offers great service, and I'm happy to tell everybody else about it as well, so that cloud service provider can provide their great service to many more people. And I'm happy to let them know that you sent them. So by all means, if you have any other comments or questions about cloud hosting, or if you just want to say, Dave, what a great episode, thanks for talking about it, or dude, you totally missed the mark, hey, I'm open to those comments as well. Feel free to shoot me an email. Check me out on Twitter at DTIGCincy, that's CINCY. So a big long word, DTIGCINCY. That's my Twitter follow. And of course, you can find me online at dtig.net, as I said. And on Facebook, you can look for Dave the IT Guy there. I'm all over the place. If you just search Dave the IT Guy out of Google, you will find me most definitely. So I want to say thanks for checking me out on this particular podcast. Thanks for spending your evening and a little bit of your time with us. Our next episode is coming at you soon, and make sure that you are tuning in to both this podcast and my Twitter feed during the week of July 22nd through the 28th, as I will be in Las Vegas live at the Black Hat Hacker Conference. I will be doing some live interviews, some live tweeting. I will also be pre-recording some interviews with others and uploading them here to the podcast. So next week is definitely a week. I'll be tweeting out some photos and some short video clips of different people that I meet and products and services that I bump into. And you never know who you're going to meet at a Black Hat Hacker Conference. It's in the past, it certainly has been more unique than people would experience or expect. And we're going to do some live interviews, things like while we're out in the middle of Vegas Strip, all these other people that are in Vegas there to gamble and have fun and do what they do and drink and party and, whatever's happening in Vegas, staying in Vegas, right? Well, do they know that they're going to be surrounded by tens of thousands of hackers for a whole week? Do they realize that when they're using their free public Wi-Fi at the hotel, that every other hacker might be in the hotel trying to capture that data and steal it? Do they realize that the skimmers on top of the credit card terminals at different gas pumps or ATMs are probably going to be all over the place. And you wonder, do people that, when they go on vacation, when they travel like that, do they think ahead about where am I going? What else might be happening in that city, especially a destination like Vegas, where many conferences of all types go on all the time? And, do people consider that sort of stuff, and do they, prepare themselves? And do they understand the risk of using their laptops and things like that? So I'm certainly going to be doing some live video interviews and some other types of things to just see how the city of Vegas handles tens of thousands of hackers during the Black Hat event. So be sure to tune in and stay tuned to the podcast and my Twitter feed during that week, because man, it's going to be awesome. All right, that's it for me. I'm out. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time. I am Dave, the IT guy.